Welcome to Build Strong Habits podcast channel. This is an audio podcast, so take your eyes off the screen, sit back, relax, and listen.
Okay, so like picture this eighth grade school dance, and there I am.
Mm.
Stand by the punch bowl, super awkward, right?
Classic.
Total outsider. But my superpower, was always humor, cracking jokes, kind of deflecting the weirdness.
I can relate to that.
Turns out I wasn't the only one. Someone else turned that feeling into like a whole empire, Ellen DeGeneres. But her story goes way beyond, stand up in those dance moves we see on daytime TV.
Yeah, Ellen's journey is, well, it's more like a roller coaster ride. It's full of like these incredible highs, but also some really low points and some sharp turns along the way. I mean, from Louisiana to Hollywood, conservative upbringing to becoming, this icon for the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're gonna unpack Ellen's whole life, the good, the bad, the complicated, everything from shy kid to comedy superstar, from breaking barriers to facing all that backlash. Get ready for some surprises.
It's really striking how Ellen's early life is like almost like the perfect setup for a comedian. Growing up in this conservative Christian Science home, yet developing this like razor sharp wit. It's almost like these two opposite forces colliding.
Right. It makes you wonder, did that contrast fuel her observational humor? Was comedy her way of kind of navigating these two very different worlds?
It's definitely possible. Humor can be like a super powerful coping mechanism, a way to, process these complex emotions, especially for people who feel like they don't quite fit in. And her early stand-up success, it really suggests she was onto something special.
Oh, for sure. Remember that iconic 1986 appearance on Johnny Carson? The Tonight Show? She was the first woman comedian invited to sit on the couch after her set.
Huge moment, watershed moment, not just for Ellen, but for women in comedy.
Totally.
It was like a stamp of approval from, a legend. It catapulted her into this whole new level of fame.
And that fame led to, of course, Ellen, the sitcom that made her a household name. But let's be real, the real game changer was, the coming out episode in 1997.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a pivotal moment in television history. I mean, can you imagine the bravery it took to do that back then?
It's hard to even overstate how significant that was. I mean, to understand the impact, we have to, rewind to the cultural landscape of 1997.
Right.
LGBTQ plus representation was minimal. Acceptance was nowhere near where it is today. The risks were huge. I mean, for Ellen to come out both as a character and personally.
Revolutionary.
And the backlash. Brutal.
Oh.
I mean, the show got canceled. She was blacklisted in Hollywood. It's a reminder that progress isn't always linear,
Exactly. Highlights the complexities of challenging, societal norms, even with all the positive reception from many, the pushback.
Years, but the impact was undeniable.
Oh, absolutely. That episode gave a voice to this whole community that had been largely silenced, and it sparked conversations that desperately needed to happen.
For sure.
It's amazing how she not only survived that period, but came back even stronger with the Ellen DeGeneres show. It wasn't instant, but she created this this whole daytime empire built on positivity, kindness, good vibes.
Yeah, brilliant move. Her show, it was different from the traditional talk show format. It was feel-good entertainment focused on, connecting with people, spreading joy. And that be kind slogan, it became more than just words. It became her brand, her philosophy.
And she genuinely seemed to live that philosophy, at least initially. I mean, her philanthropy work, extensive, animal rights, disaster relief, anti-bullying campaigns. Who could forget those 12 days of giveaways?
They look fun.
Pure joy, even if it was a little over the top sometimes.
A little bit, yeah. But that generosity, it became a huge part of her appeal and the culmination of that image, receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016.
Wow.
A true symbol of how far she had come and the impact she had made.
But, and there's always a but, right? In 2020, that carefully crafted image started to crack. The allegations of a toxic workplace on her show, jarring to say the least. Claims of mistreatment, racism, a culture of fear. It felt like the opposite of be kind.
Major turning point. It wasn't just about individual accusations, it raised larger questions about the whole Be Kind brand. Was it genuine? Was it a facade?
Right.
How common is this disconnect between public image and private behavior, especially in Hollywood?
It felt like this curtain was pulled back, and what we saw behind the scenes, not pretty, made you question everything you thought you knew about her.
And that's what makes this part of her story so compelling. It forces us to, confront the complexities of celebrity and the power dynamics at play. It reminds us that, public personas are often carefully constructed, and the reality can be much more nuanced.
This wasn't just some, gossip rag scandal. This was about workplace culture, accountability, the responsibility that comes with power and influence. We'll delve deeper into all of this in the next part of our deep dive, because let's face it, this is where things get really interesting.
So we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger, right, with those bombshell allegations against Ellen and her show. Shook things up, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It's almost like watching two completely different movies.
Yeah.
The feel-good Ellen we saw on screen, and then this darker, more troubling picture emerging from, behind the scenes. It makes you wonder, like, how did we get here?
Well, I think to understand that, we kind of need to rewind a bit. Let's go back to those early comedy days, long before the talk show empire. Ellen, she started out in these small clubs, honing her craft in a world dominated by men.
Yeah. I can picture her in those like smoky clubs, working out material, bombing one night, killing it the next. It's the classic comedian origin story.
Right.
Paying dues, facing rejection, but always like pushing forward.
Absolutely. And it's in those early years that she developed that signature style, clean, observational, relatable. It's a style that really resonated with audiences, particularly women.
It's interesting though, because while her humor was, accessible, she wasn't afraid to push boundaries. Even back then, there was this like subtle subversiveness to her act, a hint of like challenging norms. You know what I mean?
That's a great point. Her humor often had this double meaning, like playing with expectations and making audiences think. And that ability to walk that line, to be both funny and thought-provoking, that's what made her stand out.
And that's what caught the eye of Johnny Carson, leading to that legendary Tonight Show appearance in '86.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was huge, not just for her career, but for women in comedy.
Game changer. Legitimized her talent on a national stage, opened doors that had previously been closed to women in stand-up, and it paved the way for, her own sitcom, Ellen.
Right, Ellen.
Yeah.
Now, the show itself was successful, but it's the coming out episode that really, cemented her legacy. It was like a cultural earthquake, shattering taboos and sparking this national conversation about LGBTQ plus representation.
Think about the context. This was 1997. Gay marriage was still a distant dream. LGBTQ plus individuals were largely invisible in mainstream media. I mean, for Ellen to come out, both as a character and personally, it was an act of incredible courage.
And she paid a price for that courage.
Right.
The show got canceled. She faced this wave of criticism. Her career like stalled for a while.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget how harsh the backlash was back then.
Yeah, it's a reminder that progress isn't always, a straight line. There are often setbacks, resistance, and a price to pay for challenging the status quo. But the impact of that episode, undeniable, gave hope and visibility to a generation of LGBTQ plus individuals and helped shift the cultural landscape, however slowly.
And that resilience, that ability to bounce back from adversity ultimately led to the creation of the Ellen DeGeneres show. She essentially reinvented like the daytime talk show format, building an empire on positivity, kindness, feel-good entertainment.
Stroke of genius. In a world increasingly filled with, negativity and division, she offered the space for escape, connection, shared joy, and that be kind mantra. It resonated with millions, became her defining characteristic.
And for a while, it seemed like she could do no wrong. The show was a ratings juggernaut. She was winning awards. Her brand was everywhere. She became this symbol of hope, generosity, all things good.
The ultimate good guy, using her platform to promote kindness, support various causes, and lift people's spirits, and it felt genuine, at least for a time.
But as we've discussed, that image started to unravel with the 2020 allegations, the accusations of a toxic workplace environment. They contradicted everything she seemingly stood for. It was this jarring juxtaposition, a reminder that public image doesn't always reflect reality.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call, not just for Ellen, but for all of us. It forced us to confront the complexities of celebrity, the potential for dissonance between persona and action, and the importance of critical thinking.
And it sparked this much-needed conversation about workplace culture, accountability, the responsibility that comes with power and influence. It made us question our own assumptions about the people we admire and the narratives we create around them.
Exactly, and that's where things get really interesting, because ultimately the Ellen DeGeneres story is more than just about one person. It's about how we navigate fame, power, and the ever-shifting landscape of public perception.
And it's about the power of storytelling, how a narrative can be built, challenged, and ultimately rewritten.
Yeah.
But before we jump into that final act, let's take a moment to digest all that we've learned so far: the rise, the fall, the complexities. It's quite a journey, isn't it? Okay, so we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Ellen DeGeneres. Man, it's been a wild ride, right?
It has.
From those, early stand-up days to talk show domination, and then, well, that dramatic fall from grace.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what to make of it all, honestly.
It's a complicated story, that's for sure. But I think that's what makes it so fascinating. Ellen's journey, it's really a reflection of our own evolving cultural landscape. It touches on so many critical themes: the LGBTQ plus representation, the power of media, the complexities of fame, the importance of accountability. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And as we try to make sense of it all, I keep coming back to this question: how do we reconcile the be kind Ellen with the Ellen accused of fostering this toxic work environment? Is it even possible to hold both versions of her story in our minds at the same time?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's an easy answer. We have this, human tendency to want to categorize people as either good or bad, hero or villain.
Right.
But the truth is, most people, especially those in the public eye, they exist somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's like we build these narratives around celebrities, projecting our own hopes and ideals onto them.
Yeah.
And then when those narratives are, shattered, it can be really disorienting.
Exactly. And I think that's what happened with Ellen. She became this symbol of positivity, kindness, progressive values. And when those allegations surfaced, it challenged not just her image, but our own beliefs about her.
It's almost like we felt betrayed.
Right.
Yeah.
How could the queen of Be Kind allow such a negative environment to exist?
It's understandable. We invest emotionally in these public figures, and when they fall short of our expectations, it can feel personal. But it's important to remember that celebrities are human beings, flawed and complex, just like us.
Right. They make mistakes. They have blind spots, and sometimes their actions don't align with their words. And I think that's a valuable lesson to take away from all of this. We should be wary of putting anyone on a pedestal, celebrity or not.
Absolutely. It's about holding people accountable, yes, but also recognizing that everyone is capable of both good and bad.
Yeah.
No one's perfect. And expecting perfection is a recipe for disappointment.
So where does all of this leave Ellen now? I mean, she stepped away from the spotlight, ended her show, and has been relatively quiet. What's next for her, It's hard to say. She's certainly trying to rebuild her image, focusing on, her digital network, her product line, other ventures. But it remains to be seen whether she can, fully regain the trust and adoration she once enjoyed.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, can a public figure truly come back from this kind of controversy?
Yeah.
Can they rewrite their narrative, or will the stain of these allegations just linger forever?
It's a tough road, but I think it's possible. With time, genuine remorse, and a commitment to change, the public can be forgiving, especially if they see, real effort and accountability.
I guess ultimately it's up to each individual to decide how they view, Ellen DeGeneres and her legacy. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about grappling with the complexities, acknowledging the good and the bad, and forming our own conclusions.
And that's what makes the story so compelling. It's not a neat and tidy narrative. It's messy, it's challenging, and it forces us to confront like uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us. And sometimes those are the most valuable stories of all.
Well said. Well, with that, we come to the end of our deep dive into the life and times of Ellen DeGeneres. It's been a fascinating journey, that's for sure, full of twists and turns, laughter and tears, triumph and controversy. We hope you've enjoyed, exploring this multifaceted story with us.
And we hope it's, sparked some thought-provoking conversations along the way, because ultimately that's what we're all about here at the Deep Dive, diving deep, exploring different perspectives, and leaving you with, more questions than answers.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Build Strong Habits.